Are you wanting to up your game in dealing with the hater, baiter, agitator, alligator people in your world? Well, you come to the right place.
The Narc Ninja, bringing you the tools and tactics to heal and deal with users and abusers. And now the Narc Ninja himself, Christopher Fairchild.
Welcome back to the Narc Ninja channel, to video 5 in this 10-part limited series called the Narc Ninja 101 Survival Guide. Today's video is the second half of communication self-defense, giving you some powerful Narc Ninja responses and effective countermeasures when you do need to deal with toxic, manipulative, narcissistic, exploitative people. But before we get started, I need to ask you to please subscribe, hit that bell, ding ding, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and consider leaving me a question or a comment. I will be reading some of those in the future. You know what? I want to make a point here. None of these videos are about complaining sessions about that difficult person in our lives, nor are they about having some sort of victim mentality or playing the victim role. All of these videos are about proactively using powerful tools and methods to identify, deal with, and move beyond abusive situations and people, whether that's out in the world or at work or sitting across from you at your own dinner table. Now, while I may have learned many things from really awesome therapists and about a bajillion books, these are the things that have and continue to work for me IRL, as they say. Unlike many of these sorts of videos out there, all of this is from my own personal journey and from the perspective of a long-term severe abuse survivor who's made his way from victim to survivor to thriver. And I am doing all of this from my heart. It's a very personal sense of mission to add my voice to this growing healing movement in the very best way I can. Okay, I needed to say that. Why I waited for my 5th video? Who knows? Okay, let's get started. In the last video, I shared with you the main rule about being a Narc Ninja is don't talk about being a Narc Ninja. I also went over how often using these communication self-defense tactics can feel like you're not being your authentic self. And that's because, in a way, you're not, at least in so much as you are being tactical. You are simply using tried and true communication and de-escalation techniques to deal with difficult, manipulative, and emotionally abusive people. So, and please note, none of this applies in any situation where you feel you may be in some physical danger. Of course, in those cases, you need to leave immediately. One of the pioneering books on codependency, back in the day, many of you have heard of, I'm sure, was called Codependent No More, written by J.A.D.E. It was and remains a great book on the subject. And back in 1986, when it came out, I remember those of us in the codependent recovery movement were all about self-empowerment and this new concept, at least to me, and that was called setting healthy personal boundaries. And, you know, don't get me wrong, that is hugely important in everyone's life and always will be. Just know that, like everything else, there's a time and a place. If you're needing to use communication self-defense tactics because you're with an escalating, toxic, or abusive or character disturbed person, then setting some sort of great, powerful personal boundary is definitely going to be perceived as being argumentative and most probably will escalate everything, and that's not what you want to do. Turns out setting healthy boundaries is most effective when dealing with mostly healthy people. And once again, if at any time you do feel like your physical safety is at risk, you need to flee the scene and find safety immediately. And there is a tip later on in this video with an idea on how to maybe do that. Also included here are some solid stock responses and less tense and escalating moments. They're more deflective tactics. And if you have been traumatized, especially by long-term abuse, you can become vulnerable to something called trauma triggers. You may have heard of that. For me, even just the sound of my abuser sighing could make my heart start to race. It could just be the sound of their car pulling up in the driveway and you are in the 4 F's, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, just like that. That is what you call a trauma trigger. And don't kid yourself. Your narc probably knows that too, even if they don't know that phrase, not to mention how to use them. If you have recently left an abusive relationship, please know that the abusive person may just show up in all the places they know you frequent. Places like your regular grocery store or restaurants or clubs, gyms, parks, you name it. There is a big chance they may just so happen to have been in the neighborhood. This is yet one more example of where you may need to consider just letting it go. Just let go of those places and find new ones, please, that the abuser doesn't know about. And if this is your situation, chances are, even after all of that, they will just sort of show up when you least expect them to. When I had first gotten away from my abuser, I moved to another city a couple 100 miles away, no forwarding address, and even then they found me. They started showing up at my home, at my front door, unannounced, at all odd hours, trying to get into my house. They would try to push their way if I ever opened the door at all, and it, in those instances, took all of my strength to fight them off, to keep them from getting inside my house. And God knows what would have happened if I'd have let them. And I found myself from that becoming hypervigilant about my safety, especially in public situations. And so my planning ahead and even practicing my stock responses, were I to run into them, was a lifesaver for my anxiety. One example was, and this might sound weird, was in the grocery store. And I know it wasn't really rational, but it was a huge trigger for me. I was fine just, walking around filling my cart. But once I was in line, I felt trapped. And I thought, what in the hell would I do if they just popped up right behind me in line? I thought, anyway, it got so bad, I started having just even a hard time concentrating enough to pay for my groceries. And per the advice of a wonderful therapist from years ago, dealing with a very difficult producer, turns out my solution was to be prepared. Just do some homework on what I would do were that to happen. And like so many of my Narc Ninja moves, it required a little bit of acting and some practice, so it would become almost automatic. And now just know these couple of things I'm going to share in just a second here, they need to happen in seconds, not moments. So in fact, the quicker the better. The first thing I had to do was just get over any embarrassment I might have about abandoning my shopping cart at any point, especially at the checkout. My plan was to give the abuser a big smile and give the abuser hello, a big loud hi, fairly loudly, loud enough to call some attention just in case it did start to become physical, followed by urgently checking my pockets and giving that look of surprise and saying, oh no, I'll be right back, and just dashing off before anybody could respond. If the abuser did try to say something to me, I planned on holding up my hand in the stop position, notice the body language, it's important, and saying, hold that thought. And without giving them a second to respond, I'd run to my car, leaving my groceries behind, and drive off. Now that little thing could also work in that moment you think you may be in some physical danger. Just, find a moment to interrupt them and give them a dramatic look and say, oh crap, I'll be right back, and turn on a dime and run like hell, no matter what they might try and say. For me, practice was key. I even got a friend to do some role play for me for several of these responses, so I could know I would be prepared if it ever happened again. Me personally, I knew that without this homework and doing, lots of practice ahead of time, I'd probably be completely useless in what would be my moment of panic. I would just freeze. This is also called, by the way, the amygdala hijack. In most of these Narc Ninja communication self-defense tactics, you are going to need to try to remain calm, even if you're faking it. Just like the commercial says, never let them see you sweat. You need to stay verbally and emotionally as neutral as you can. Not at all sarcastic or happy or sad or even slightly irritated. Just content and grounded. Imagine yourself detaching from their energy. And remember to breathe. And remember, unless you're using, like one of my flight techniques I just mentioned, where time is, of course, of the essence, other than that, you're not in any hurry. So take all the damn time you need to respond. When we're challenged, we escalate emotionally. We start to, speak more quickly and louder, and we raise our pitch. But not this time. No, slow down, breathe, meter your speech, and just stay neutral, almost monotone. Just stay cool. Stay solid as a brick wall. It can calm you both down. One response I love is, gosh, I am so sorry you feel that way. So simple and yet healthfully detached. You're already not even trying to defend yourself. Another one is, well, it's certainly not my business to try and tell you how to think. I love this one because you're not even saying you agree or disagree with how they see you or the situation, and you're not getting at all emotionally involved. You're just staying cool and neutral, remembering to breathe. Remember that it's your life. It's your decision to allow them to get you emotionally upset or not. Your true feelings are not, they're not only not their call, your true feelings are none of their damn business, full stop. This is your life energy and you owe them nada, zippo, zilcho. One standard de-escalation technique I mentioned earlier is to just not add anything to the polarity so it loses its momentum. Basically, just refuse to disagree. I mean, if you throw a ball to someone and they don't catch it, it's a pretty solid game ender. So, like they might say, you are so selfish and you think you are always right. You could say something like, wow, that is certainly food for thought. Seriously, I may need to actually think about that. Or even just a quick, could be, or thank you for the input. Any of these can work. Your ability to remain healthfully detached is really the key in every one of these situations. One technique that I really love is more about what I'm saying to myself in those moments, and it has helped me so tremendously. It's something I call, isn't that interesting? This is when I can feel myself becoming emotionally activated, even a bit offended, wanting to defend myself, or what's called J.A.D.E, J.A.D.E, which some of you may know stands for justify, argue, defend, and explain. That's what they want you to do. And at the very moment I'm feeling stressed, I silently say to myself, isn't that interesting? As in, isn't that interesting this person's trying to get me upset right now? Or isn't it interesting how much better I'm doing at not getting myself hooked in by these manipulators? This one little trick pulls you right out of that role of being a frontline participant in an argument and transforms you in the moment, okay, into being a spectator. And look, at the end of the day, these folks can't get your goat if you ain't got one. Finally, one of my all-time favorite countermeasures of all is to completely let go of ever winning or ever having the last word with a narcissist. Ever. Let go of ever having that moment where you go back and you explain reality on the planet we call Earth one more time and they finally get it. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Sing that Frozen song and just let it go. Or just embody that Beatles song and let it be. I really hope this was helpful for you today. If it was, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up or down. Leave me a comment or question. I might read your question in a future video. And hit that bell. Next up in this series, I'm going to talk about the 8 most commonly identified types of narcissists. There's a few others I'll be going into in future videos, but this is a really great start to understanding the differentiations and some of the common threads in this social cancer called narcissism. Until then, thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. keep your light shining and always be you to the full. Namaste.